all these rejections from the middle Bollinger Band.
Resistance we're going to need.
If you actually see here, we get a
And we'll look for a healthy higher
I
low.
would not
don't have
be
the
convinced
pullback
to
to
enter a long trade.
Hello, crypto friends. Fresh out of the ocean, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, and we have follow through on what was very much anticipated as the most likely scenario heading into today. So we'll cover it all in just a moment. We're going to look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, IOTA, and ETC, which had a pump on the news of Coinbase looking to add ETC. So we'll look at it all. But first, some points. And if you didn't watch the video I made yesterday, definitely watch the first 8 minutes of that video. I think I made some good points that are worth hearing if you did not check in. Another thing I want to say is a lot of people talking about Canadian MJ, asking me questions. That's great. Exchanges is either Fidelity or Interactive Brokers. I think I've answered that 400 times in the last 2 weeks. But aside from that, obviously you're not just going to dive in and buy Canadian MJ, right? This is an invitation to explore deeper and go forward on your own research. So, look up which brokers trade Canadian MJ, and you also can trade US tickers. They all are dual listed. Or you're going to look up, what is the sector like? What are the articles saying? They just had a significant vote. What was the impact of that? Familiarize yourself with this space rather than just, unfortunately, when I say something like that, people are just going to blindly buy Canadian MJ names, not doing any due diligence and just throwing their money in. But it's the same thing as always. Establish a game plan. Are you playing long-term, short-term? What's your strategy? What names you're going to be looking at? And, treat it with caution and respect, and don't just dive in head first, because things are a bit extended. We've been having a really good trading opportunity the last couple of months, and it's now not just the time to blindly buy in unless you're looking 3 to 5 years out. If you're saying I'm not going to touch this for 3 to 5 years, I'd say yeah, go ahead, no biggie. So another points I want to make. So when I talk about learning bearish, and I say, yesterday in the video, this is opportunity to learn other things. When I'm saying learn bearish, that's not necessarily meaning so you can trade bearish. And obviously, I haven't been trading bearish this whole time. And when I see moves like last night into this morning, it certainly is tough to watch because it's so very clear. But I have my own personal reasons. I'm not going into all the details as to why I only trade on GDAX. But that's my reality right now. But learning bearish trading, I noticed myself doing something today where it's because I know how to trade bearish in other markets and stocks. So I can think like a bear. I know what I would do if I were a bear. And that gives me a lot of insight. A lot of people look at the Bitcoin BTC short chart for Bitfinex and look for clues. But there's very little where I see a setup that chart tells me something that I don't already assume as what's the most likely scenario in terms of the positioning of the shorts. I'll check it out. And when shorts are extremely high or extremely low, that's worth noting. But in general instances, when you're seeing a setup like we had just recently, where we had the bulls making an attempt to get over some resistance here, and it was struggling at a wall, and we eventually got this little bull break up. It obviously didn't do much at all. But even just looking at this psychologically, I could say to myself, if I were in a short-term bearish position, if we broke the initial high of the bounce attempt, I would exit. And that's what we saw. This little bull break led to a pullback in the short chart. So having the opposing, the saying, you want to understand your enemy, and that's not necessarily the case, although when you are in a trade, you are enemies against the other side, but you got to be able to think like your enemy in trading and think, what would a bear do? What would I do if I were bearish? And it doesn't even have to be that you're trading it. It can be to better prepare you in your bull positions to know what to be anticipating and what to be looking for. One last point before we get into the technical analysis is a lot of people are talking about their long-term positions and their cold wallets and saying, should I put my money on and or my coins on and bail? Is this the time to do it? And in all honesty, the answer is probably no, just because, yes, we're about to break a key support potentially. We just bounced right off of it with a double bottom, but I don't have a whole lot of hope. I'm not holding my breath. If this level breaks, that's not necessarily the time to dump, because we've already been in a downtrend for 6 weeks in a row. It sounds counterintuitive, and it's hard for people to understand that are newer to trading, but you want to sell into strength. And that's hard because, just like April, people saw the bounce and people say, oh, things are turning around. All my hopes and dreams are coming true. Because let's be real, no matter how much we contain our emotions, they're still back there. And they definitely keep us from selling into strength. They would say, why would I sell? It's going up from 6,000 to 10,000. When in reality, we know there's a resistance level approaching. We don't see increasing bull volume. So the odds that we're going to see a V-shape to higher highs is not likely. And if you scale out looking to exit a position, again, you're looking to, it's the fear of missing out. It's all these emotional things that keep people from doing that. But you want to sell into strength. So because we've already pulled back 6 weeks in a row, long-term positions that are going to dump on this support break, I wouldn't be surprised to dump down, head to the upper 5,000 range, and then see it bounce back up to the mid 7,500s. And the people that sold in the mid 6,500s are going to say, oh, I should have held for the bounce. And that's just something, it's not every time. Again, we're talking most likely scenarios, but because we have already pulled back, that is what would lead me to wait for a bounce to be a seller. And it's also the kind of thing where if it was a tighter pattern, it would be different. So let's say we bounce off this double bottom and we set another lower high and then the bear break, because that's only coming off of 2 weeks, let's say, of bearish action instead of 6, the bears would be less extended to the downside if that were to get a little bounce and then a break. So again, it's the fact that we've pulled back so much already and the daily RSI is already oversold that it's not like I would expect to go from 6,400 straight down to 5,000. I would expect there to be bounces along the way to cool off these RSI levels. So we're going to look at things now on shorter term time frames, and then we're going to zoom out. And that's what we've been doing this entire time. And I've had no rush in terms of looking for entries at this point because, again, I'm shifting my game plan. If you showed me this setup 4 months ago and gave me this exact setup, I would be rushing to place orders right now and buy in. The environment has changed. It's no longer the case. The RSI levels get more extreme, so I adjust my trading style with that. So we know the exponential resistance is our friend. The 12-period exponential resistance is this gift that just is so nice to have as a guideline. Are the bears still in control? Let's check exponential resistances. And for the 15-minute time frame, the bounce this morning, it was very clearly a bear flag, exponential rejection, dump down. Here we are bouncing. I know the 15-minute exponential 12-period resistance still stands, so I know the bulls have proven nothing. I know I'm not missing anything. I've got no rush to get into any trades. The bears have complete control. And keep in mind, with my bearish mindset, if I were a bear, I'm very comfortable. If I lose the 15-minute exponential, I get a little bit less comfortable. If I lose the hourly exponential, I get even more uncomfortable. So again, it's the different mindsets and knowing what each side would be looking for. So 15-minute is still resistance. The hourly exponential resistance, we didn't even touch it on the last bear flag. But again, what happens is if we get over the 15-minute exponential, we'll zoom out to the hourly. Then the hourly is our next resistance. If we break the hourly, then we zoom out to the 4-hour. So recently, overnight, we did that. The hourly exponential became support, and not convincingly, but we were just grinding against it. And I said, all right, that's no longer resistance. We zoom out to the 4-hour. Now we're looking at this resistance level. And I actually sold some Ethereum. Again, I'm playing with very small positions of Ethereum, and I'm out now at this point. But a very small sell of Ethereum, I sold anticipating a 4-hour exponential resistance rejection, and Ethereum rejected right off of that line. So if you're thinking longer term swing position, I honestly would not even look at any entry possibility unless the 4-hour 12-period exponential resistance was becoming support. And that would be my main criteria if you're a longer term swing trader. Obviously, people are still going to try and scalp and short term trade these other bounces, which is fine. But again, I am very, very relaxed, and I have no interest in rushing into any positions, and I am just sitting all cash and watching the show for now. And this hourly RSI, I don't expect it to get too extreme. It's down at 29 right now. This is the daily RSI, excuse me. It's down at 29. If we get the break of 64.50, our next support is essentially 6,000 psychological first up. And by the time we get down to that level, if it happens, in the next few days, the daily RSI is going to be in the mid 20s, and it's going to be at some historical lows where we have bounced before. We've gotten down into the mid 20s a few times, and it's led to some nice bounces. And that would be something I would be keeping an eye out for. So we do have the double bottom at this point. The bounce off of the double bottom is nothing in terms of, having me think, is there any hope for the bulls? In my opinion, the bulls have to prove it to me, and they're not doing it at this point. So I am very patiently watching, and really the 4-hour, if you get over the top of the bounce attempt of 6,913, that's when I'll start to believe the bulls on this double bottom and say, hey, maybe they can do something with this. But until that happens, it's just a 4-hour lower high, cooling off RSI levels, and potentially heading right back down to that support. So I don't mean to sound uber bearish, but we're in a very bearish downtrend, and that's the state of the market right now, and that's the way it is. So patiently waiting. I think I said patient 12 times by now, but you get the idea. So Ethereum, same story. We have a double bottom. We broke actually 500, so a little bit different, not the same story. We have broken 500 psychological support. Keep in mind the weekly chart is different here because we are very likely to form a weekly higher low compared to 360. And it's so hard to think back, 2.5 months ago, Ethereum was trading in the 300s. And here we are feeling like the sky is falling in the upper 400s. So we're looking for a higher low on the weekly time frame. Certainly not going to try and time that. It depends on where Bitcoin bottoms out. The daily time frame just dropped to a lower low. Daily inside bar bear break. Such an easy bear play. Bearish downtrend. Everybody's bearish. And that's, again, something you want to be cautious of, the fact that everybody is bearish. But these inside bars are just freebies in terms of going with strength, just like the bullish signals were freebies when we were in the uptrend. So 4-hour time frame, we rejected right from that resistance. That's where I took a little bit of profit in the 530s and then exited the rest break even. Again, these trades aren't really meaningful or significant. It's taco money, and I'm getting tacos tonight. So drop down, and we're oversold. But the hourly RSI, the 4-hour RSI, they're getting to more extreme levels. Bitcoin 4-hour RSI, again, compared to where it was, we're not even close. So people say, can it drop and keep going down? Absolutely. We just did it 2 days ago. So again, cautious. And Ethereum, the next support level on the daily time frame is 498, which has broken. There's a lack of support down here. 481.18, and then look at the space before the next support level. That's down in the 470s, really all the way down to the low 400s. There's a lack of price support level established in stair-step pattern on the way up. So the bulls really want to hold this support. Otherwise, we're looking at empty space. And LTC, which we're not going to look at right now because I'm tired, is falling through space with no support. We broke 100, and there's no support till around the $70 level. So again, it's just in free fall where the bears are having their way with it, and they can continue to push it down to more extreme levels, not only because of the bearish sentiment and the environment we're in, but because of the lack of support. It's easier to push the price down. So IOTA USD, weekly time frame, just like Ethereum, we are still looking for a higher low compared to 915. Daily time frame, inside bar bear break. 4-hour RSI, not nearly as oversold, but comparable. Again, 4-hour exponential resistance, rejecting the bounce attempt, just leading down to lower lows. Hourly inside bars to be watching, oversold. And again, same thing. We watch the 15-minute exponential resistance, then we zoom out and zoom out and zoom out until the bulls prove something. So essentially, imagine it like an obstacle course for the bulls to get through, where the 15-minute 12-period RSI is level 1 or hurdle number 1. And there's level 2 would be the hourly, level 3 would be the 4-hour. You have to get to level 3 before you start to make any kind of significant move against this trend, and to shift this, or to start to just barely shift this momentum, you have to get to level 3. So think of it like that, and that will keep you from trying to think that the bulls are doing something too early. They're giving them too much credit. ETC USD got the pump on being added to Coinbase, and here's an example. Certainly don't want to call anybody out, but last night we were exploding to the upside, and congrats to the chat room was so on point with posting right when this news came out. So people were jumping in, they got really good entries, and it was great. Absolutely, go all in on that news right away. But once the news starts to sink in and more groups post about it and more people talk about it, by that point, it's been out for a half an hour and we're up at $15. So at this point, I did start, giving caution. We did see further upside, but when you get to a point like this, it's a gamble where you're saying, okay, we have no support nearby, so if I'm wrong and if I buy near the top, I can very quickly be down 5-10%. Or I'm hoping that people continue to buy behind me because I don't have a sell target. I don't know how high it's going to go. So it's entering a trade with a lack of information and going solely based on this news. And again, that can be a very profitable trade, and I will do that often, but you got to make sure that you're in the early end of things and not buying the people's share or the people's coins that did get in early. So I did start issuing caution at the low 15 area. We did see another leg up, but once I saw that another leg up, I posted the news on Twitter and said, don't FOMO. And it was at 16 right then, and I was saying, you want to enter on consolidation at this point. The RSI levels are through the roof on a lot of time frames. And instantly I get messages back with people saying, the all-time high is in the 30s. We're at $16. Coinbase is adding them. I'm going all in. And I'm just thinking, this is such a different environment than if this news came out 4 months ago, 5 months ago, we'd be looking to make a move into the mid-20s over the next few days. It's not the same environment. The bears were just salivating and waiting to short it. We had members that made some really nice short trades on this because, again, it's such a bearish environment. Everybody has the mindset of sell, and it would have to continue going counter what the entire crypto market is doing in order to see significant continuation. So when it was all said and done, we pulled back from that top, and that ended up being, the top was 1640, and here we are down in the low 14. So someone is currently down 15% from FOMOing into this position, and they have no idea what to do or where to place their stop loss, and they'll probably go long, and I hope it works out for them, but they're not in a position that they're comfortable in. So again, just don't FOMO, and there will always be another opportunity somewhere, and it will prevent you from losing money. Again, I would always rather leave money on the table than lose money. I do not like taking steps backwards with my goal of accruing capital. Always steps forward. If I miss a big leap, that's fine. I'll make a step forward tomorrow. That's all I got to say. Let's check back in on Bitcoin one more time here. Still trying for a 15-minute higher low. The top of the bounce is resistance. The exponential resistance will have to be broken to get above to a higher high and hold it. And then we zoom out to the hourly, and we'll see how far away that hourly is. And it's a ways away, so we could see a little bit more continuation. Hourly inside bar to be watching. That's all I got to say. I appreciate you watching. Had a member send me a nice little elephant from India, hand carved. That was nice. Got a new little trading little dude. And we'll see you tomorrow. Do good things. Felt really good to get out in the sun, get some vitamin D on your skin. It had been a while for me. It's been cloudy or raining for the last few days, so it felt really good to get some salt water and some sun, take some deep breaths outside, do some stretching, move up the lymph node system, break things up, move around, be happy.